one of the presentations during PVD Fest of the folks on the side of the Howard Building.
Well, you mean the Bandaloop guys?
Yeah.
Like that were on the side of the building during Providence Fest.
Right.
Did you see it?
I have seen it before, and I saw 400 videos in my Facebook feed
Of all the-
of all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like it was beyond virtual reality, because everywhere I looked, I saw videos from it, and it was tremendous.
It was pretty cool, although I have to say I was watching it. It was very cool, and I enjoyed it. And I know we'll talk more about Providence Fest, but all I could think of was who signed off, what's the liability?
Oh, yeah, right.
These guys on the side.
Yeah, right.
What's going on here? But it was cool.
Who is the insurance carrier that
Exactly,
covered
right.
PVD Fest?
What underwriter took
Right.
that on?
So PVD Fest, I think,
Yeah.
was a great party,
Yeah.
and I think it got people excited about the city. For the most part, nothing but good feedback. We got a little chirps here and there about things, but for the most part, it brought thousands.
We went down. We went down Friday night, and you know what? You feel good about the city.
Right.
The community comes out. I mean, the weather, tried to cooperate, did a
Sort
little
of,
bit,
yeah.
sort of cooperated. But you know what? It was just cool. It's cool to see the community come together. It's really exciting to see downtown get activated.
Right.
So many people have worked so hard for a long time,
Right.
to make that happen, as you know. And so I felt good about the city. I mean, you remember, when it wasn't,
I remember Gotham
when
City.
it wasn't so, right? Like when you wouldn't come downtown and you wouldn't hang with your family and with
Oh,
your
God,
kids.
no.
And now, I mean, there were people there, all ages, kind of families there, enjoying the venue, and it was just a good vibe. I was really proud of it.
So let's talk about the vibe
Yeah.
and talk about the innovation of it. I think Mayor Alorza deserves some credit for helping to create this, it is, to some degree, building on Providence's strengths, right? Tremendous artistic community, tremendous creativity. How do we take that and expand it into something more? How do we leverage that sort of weekend of energy and feeling good about the city and fix the roads in front of us that have not been, that literally have not been fixed in the 10 years I've been down
Well,
there?
the first thing you do is you keep building on success.
Right.
So as the event keeps getting larger, more people come down, you try to attract people, not just from the local area,
Right.
but regionally and then ultimately national. I'm sure, and I think I've heard the mayor, talk about this, you want to be South by Southwest at a Rhode Island scale.
Yeah.
Right? You want to have an annual event, that we're all proud of, we all want to see be successful, and we're inviting our friends from all over to come. Like, hey, you want to be here in Providence during the period of Providence Fest, and I think they're on their way towards that.
Sure.
More work to do. You have to keep building on it. They have to broaden the venues. They have to broaden the nature
Right.
of the acts to attract more people. But it plays really nicely with the branding, of the city. The creative capital. It's a natural positioning. You kind of believe it, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, this is the thing about positioning. When you're trying to position a place, it has to be real. It has to be genuine. You have to be able to tell the story about the place, and people have to believe it. And I think when we talk about Providence as the creative capital, I think it's a natural positioning that people believe. And when Providence Fest comes into town, you want to be there. And so we went. We came down and spent time there, and it delivered.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good.
Great. But I'm gonna keep pushing you on this.
No, go ahead.
Thousands come in, a
Yep.
positive experience. They return home on Sunday,
Right.
Saturday or Sunday.
Yep.
What's the mechanism? I mean,
Yep.
you're great at bringing tons of people together and then creating strategies for connecting them and engaging them, etc. What's the strategy Providence can start to work on to fix some fairly significant fundamental problems: infrastructure, education, and financial?
Well, first of all, so I started with keep building the event.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what you want to do is, first of all, let's start from it's not an event, it's a community.
Yeah.
Like, change the mindset here, right? Don't be all in on it's just how the event goes, although that's important.
Yeah.
Right. Remember what it's for, right? It's to create community. It's to create connections in the community and outside of the community, and that has to happen throughout the year. It's to go from self-organized groups groups that come down for an event over a couple of days to help make those networks purposeful.
Right.
That's what we want, right? We want people to connect in different ways, both in and outside of Providence,
Yep.
right? In and outside of the state.
Yep.
But then we want to turn that to purpose, right? So if the positioning is around the creative capital, and that's going to funnel into entrepreneurship and innovation and how we reposition the economy and the jobs and our infrastructure, you've got to connect the dots for people. We have to see how those that community becomes purposeful, how we go beyond just a few days into a year-round effort. We have to get more collaborative. I'd like to see more of our state's institutions engaged in not just the event itself,
Right.
but in how we make it more purposeful, how we focus it in on the challenges that we face, like some of the ones you've mentioned and some others, and that's how you sustain it. If you look at what happens in Austin, it's connected to their position, keep Austin weird,
Yeah.
and the creative aspects of South by Southwest. The event's grown and grown and grown, but it isn't just the event.
Right.
I go to Austin many times over the course of the year. It's the vibe in the place. It's the positioning of the place that isn't just about the days of the event. And that's, I'm sure, what leadership in the city, and in the state are looking to do. We have some work to do, right? I don't know if we have as much collaboration and all the big institutions seeing it the same way,
Right.
like participating in it, helping to make it a success, and helping to sustain it so that it's not just an event, it's a community.
So let's just talk about, we talk a little bit about South by Southwest. Obviously, it's got a different DNA. South by
Sure.
Southwest started by an individual,
Right.
whatever it is, 30 years
Yeah.
ago, as an alternative experience of music and art and all sorts of things, and now has become a megalopolis of technology
Right.
and innovation and arts and music and
No, that's right. And
the world
education,
goes
there's an
there.
education
Yeah,
piece to
absolutely.
it. And so this is where we need to go with what we've started here. And so this is what I mean when I say it can't just be a few individuals and an
Well,
event.
and
it
then
has to be something that other people can participate in,
Right.
see themselves in, and can leverage it as a way, right, to create this story, this narrative, this way our community comes together to help make the place stronger and to attract more people to it.
And the other big difference is this is government spawned here
Yep.
and government funded.
Yep.
There is not a lot of private sector or nonprofit involvement in this event and very little corporate
Right.
partnerships in fundraising.
Well, we need to do more of it. See, to me, it doesn't matter how it started.
Yeah, that's right.
It matters that it's
Very good
here
point.
and
Right.
it's now.
Right.
And so we have way too much of that's not mine.
Yeah,
This wasn't
yeah,
our
right.
event. This is your
Right.
event. We have our own event. We're
Right.
doing this. Like enough of that already. Like the fact
We
is,
have
it's-
perfected that in Rhode Island.
we love to do
Yes,
that.
right.
Well, I call that small state syndrome, right?
Right.
We're way too fragmented and we're not taking advantage of our size.
We have a better term
The
for it.
fact is, no,
We will
what's that?
fight over a dust bunny under the bed.
We'd love to fight
Yeah,
over dust
yes,
bunnies.
right.
No,
No
well,
value, just because it's there, we'll
but
fight
that's
over
what I
it.
mean by small state syndrome.
Yeah.
Because we feel like we're too small and we can't compete with larger places, and it's not true.
Right.
Because we're small, we actually can differentiate, but it's going to take one or two clicks more on the collaboration meter. We got to
Yeah.
play more. We got to play more nicely in the sandbox together. And so it doesn't matter how it started, who owned it, what role the government played or didn't play. Who cares? What matters is if you were here over the weekend, right? It was a compelling community event. with
Absolutely.
People of all ages. There were different constituencies that were there for different reasons, and we have to take advantage of things like that and build on them and figure out how we can be part of that story, whether we're an institution here in Rhode Island or as individuals. And this is how it grows and sustains itself. I can guarantee you South by Southwest isn't one person anymore.
No, it is
right?
definitely not.
And there's a lot of pieces to it, and it goes on for several weeks,
Oh, yeah.
right? With lots of different convenings that are kind of attached and associated with it, taking advantage of the brand and the energy, that started. And you're absolutely right, right? The first part of it was very creative and artistic and musicians, that came from all over. And now, we send people from BIF every year because there's a whole education piece,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
With
it's insane.
with the education innovation crowd from around the country, that's there. think about what we could do here if all the other institutions, the higher ed, our colleges and universities created adjacent venues that weren't just about art and music, but started to add other disciplines, that positioned ourselves as the innovation capital, that combines with the creative capital that we have here in do all of this. So I applaud them for getting us to where we are, and I think now it's time for others to see it as an important platform that we can all stitch into and build from.
Excellent on that front. Providence is at a little bit of a crossroads, right? Depending on one point of view, you get folks who say, God, Alan Hassenfeld's, we need to bankrupt this thing, blow it up, and start all over again.
That's Alan's answer. That's
usually
right. Yeah.
That's generally the perspective. And on the flip side is, listen, you have no idea what the cost is when you blow something up. There may not be anybody left to rebuild it once you blow it up because of the economic cost, the increase in taxes, the burden, the impact on the reputation of the city. What is leverageable for Providence?
Well, the key in what you just said is leverageable. A dear friend of mine on our BIF board down in Houston, Angela Blanchard, uses the expression, you can't build on broken. If you start from the position, that it's broke, we have to blow it up, that sounds good, but that's not how change is going to happen. The way it's going to happen is, there's a lot of things that are good here. There are a lot of things that we can build on. What are they? How do we build on them? The conversation we just had about Providence Fest, regardless of whether you founded it, it doesn't matter. Like, what do we have that's good that we can leverage, that we can build on? And instead of thinking about building on broken, right, let's actually build on what's strong.
Let me push back. You're a sports fan. The Celtics learned the lesson of not getting rid of the big three. The second time they got rid of the big three, they blew the team up, right? And now they're in the process of rebuilding. And the argument is, if you don't blow it up, you can't rebuild it.
No, they continue to go through building cycles, and I hope we're in a good one right now. They got further than a lot of us thought that they might have, and then a little luck doesn't hurt. And they got the #1 pick,
right?
So now let's see how and we're all watching. How are they going to use that?
Right.
But what Danny Ainge is doing, with the Celtics, is figuring out what he has, what he can leverage. Now he's got this #1 pick, and who knows whether he's going to use the pick or he's going to trade it the way they did the last time, for some solid
So
players.
If we make the analogy, do we trade, say, we keep Brown, but we trade Risty to Hartford for Aetna Insurance and the 44,000 jobs?
All I know is we have to collaborate more across our silos. We have huge assets. People come to visit here.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And you know what happens. They come here. They
go, wow.
They go, wow. They come downtown. They eat in our restaurants. They walk up the hill. They see Brown and Risdy. They go down to Newport.
But I told you that.
And then they hear the whining and all the complaining that we do.
But let me tell you, so Merrill Brown's on our board, founder of MSNBC and Court TV, comes in one Sunday night, I guess went around by himself. I go to meet him on Monday morning at the Biltmore. And he pick him up in the lobby and he says, oh my God, the city is so beautiful. The architecture is incredible. We're walking across Kennedy Plaza at about 8:30 in the morning. And he stops me and he goes, where are your people? And I said, listen, we're pretty good at the architecture. We're still working on the people.
Well, we have to have more activity downtown, and we have to activate more areas of downtown. BIF is on the west side, and there's more work to do there.
That building right there,
can
you imagine the BIF logo right on the top
there
of
you
the
go.
Superman building?
Yeah.
Right?
Do they rent out the top to put the logo on? Do I have to?
You have to take the whole building.
Do we have to occupy it?
The innovation center of the free world.
Right.
Think big. Think big.
Well, part of what we have to do to reactivate some of these spaces, is figure out what are the uses. Let's call them interim uses. Right. Instead of trying to hit the home run. Right. Like why aren't there some uses in that building?
Because the heat doesn't work.
That pay for the electricity and like turn on the heat in the winter, and we'll build to it. This is my point about you don't blow it up. You try to build on what you have, and you try to make progress. does. And yes, you're absolutely right. Sometimes you have to pivot and try things in a very, very different way.
So let me push back a little bit. Some people say we won't give up the junk in our house, right? We'll stack it away and put it and we'll keep a crappy old building. Some have made the argument about Superman,
Right.
that it is a crappy, oversized, bad infrastructure, bad, hard to reuse thing, and we would be better off clearing that land and putting something of significant.
Sometimes you do have to replace it. Sometimes you can't get married to assets
Right.
or the way things used to work, and you have to be prepared to walk away and to repurpose them and do it in a different way. And it's easier to say than it is to do, right? But sometimes you absolutely have to do that. But what is the economics? Who owns the building? How much some cost do they have in? Are they going to walk away ultimately because they can't afford to keep the lights on?
Right.
And to pay the property taxes, in the building, and at some point, it's going to get to the point where the private sector, I know you don't. I mean, there's going to be some public sector, support to do it, and so this is where 38 Studios doesn't help us because we've got this thing now where no public sector participation at all, and we need to have smarter public sector participation, and it needs to be catalytic. It can't be, it can't be the biggest investor. It can't be the owner. It can't be, the majority owner.
Right.
But it can be catalytic, and we got to get back to that again.
So on the last note I want to hit on is, we've got some great things going in Providence, and we have a lot of challenges. It's always good to compare to others. At least we're not Hartford. I mean, that poor city might be.
The Aetna News this week.
Yeah, I mean, the Aetna News. This was their,
Yeah.
Their iconic.
Yeah.
Last major insurance company located in the city, once the insurance capital of the world, and there were 5 or 6 major insurance companies in Hartford. The Hartford's not even in Hartford anymore. And they announced that they were going to move functionally about 4,000 jobs out of the city.
And you build that on top of GE,
Right.
It's not a great story. I think the one point I would make about this is just an example of when you wait until it's too late, you have fewer degrees of freedom or levers to be able to pull and push, and the time to be reinventing and pivoting and strengthening your community is when you play from a position of strength. This is the challenge we face here in Rhode Island because we have very little wiggle room. We don't have the budget. We have deficits we've got to build our way out of. Makes it really hard to do the new things and to take some catalytic resources to do the things that position you for the future. And Hartford is really struggling with that right now. That's a big blow for Hartford. They might lose all those jobs, but the prestige of a lot of the headquarter functions that are sitting in there that are going to go somewhere else because
it's analogous to us losing CVS, Hasbro, and Textron in 1 year.
No, it's a big
between the two of those
very
companies.
Big deal. And if we don't want to lose those folks,
Yeah.
you better be nurturing those relationships, making sure that their position here is strategic.
Right.
Because companies don't just stay because they used to.
Yeah.
Right. And these companies have roller skates on parts of their company. They can go anywhere in the world, with their assets.
Right.
So if you're a community, you better be talking strategically about why the community helps them from a business perspective, and not just the dollars and cents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because I think when you see GE moving to Boston, and we'll see what Aetna does, I think they want to be positioned around innovation and to be able to say to their shareholders
They
and
want
their customers,
innovation.
we are the future. And I don't think Hartford says that to their constituents.
And they want to be able to recruit smart people.
Right, and we should learn that lesson because we have the assets to be able to make Rhode Island about the future and position companies that want to be about the future and to be saying that in a genuine way. Like when we started about the creative capital, it's got to be a genuine positioning. If we say we're about the future here in Rhode Island, we better be about the future. And if we want companies to invest here that are investing it here, not just because the tax rate is the lowest, right, but because the positioning of companies here position positions them nationally and globally the way they want to be positioned. And they want to be positioned as innovators and leading their industries.
Right.
So what do we offer them that helps them do that? That's the story that we need to be able to tell in order to keep companies here and to attract them here.
I want to thank you so much.
Always a
It was
pleasure,
a
Josh.
rock